Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Crafting with V. If you're new here, welcome. So glad to have you. And if you're returning, thank you so much for returning. So today I have a little bit of an update, not much, on my mom, but I just needed some time at the house. So that is what I am doing today. I will be going up and seeing her here in a little bit. But I also needed some diamond painting. I've been doing little projects up at the hospital while I was staying and visiting with her. But anyway, we're going to work on Fisher the Frog while I tell you a little bit about what's been going on and why I have not been putting out any videos. So I'm going to switch over to the other camera so we can see what I'm working on and get along with this whip and chat. Okay, so I am working on the top. I did do a couple squares on the bottom, and I did that last night while I was in there talking with Josh, because whenever I got home about 9 o'clock, I was a little bit upset, and the release papers on the bottom kept falling off, and I didn't want it to get messed up. So while I was in there talking to him, I decided to work on this some, and the bright colors of this painting just make you feel a little bit better. So I'm going to work some more on this one. It's got a bunch of the seas, but I think I'm going to start on the rainbow part. Anyway, I think I did my last coffee chat and whip on either Thursday or Friday of last week. And I mentioned in there that I was going to go and see my mom. Well, I did go and see her. Whenever I got to the nursing home, she was sleeping, which that in itself wasn't unusual. So I went in there and I woke her up a little bit, because she would get mad if you would come in to visit her and leave because she was sleeping. So I woke her up and I had her ice cream there. Normally, first thing out of her mouth is she'll say hello to me, and then she'll say, "What'd you bring me?" Because she knows I always bring her a treat. And that day I brought her ice cream from a little restaurant in our town, a little fast food restaurant called Dairy Delight. And she loves ice cream. Absolutely loves it. Anyway, I tell her that I have her ice cream, but she didn't say anything. She didn't even focus on me. It's like she didn't even know who I was. So I was like, okay, that is fine. I'll wake her up a little bit more. Maybe she's just really tired. And I kept trying to get her attention. She kind of looked at me, and I said, "I've got ice cream," and she was trying to hold the cup, and then she was trying to put it in her mouth, and she was entirely missing her mouth. She wasn't talking at all. And my mom is normally very, very talkative. She's always talking. If I come in, she's just so happy that I'm there. And I come in each week. I know I should go down there more than once a week. And I probably will start going down there more than once a week if this has shown me anything. Anyway, I went to talk to the nurse. I told her something's not right with her. She's not acting herself. Can you go check her out? And she said, okay, I'll be there in just a moment. So she comes in there, they test her blood pressure, and the first time it's really, really low. And they were like, that must be a mistake. So they tested it again. They got a higher reading, but still low. And they should have went with the first reading altogether because it was closer to what it was whenever we got to the hospital. It was just extremely, extremely low. But anyway, we decided that we would send her to the hospital. So they called the ambulance to come and get her, and we were going to go to the local hospital in my town. And if it was worse, they were going to send her to the bigger one if they needed to. It's like, okay. So they get her, and in the meantime, I called my brother and told him what was going on. So in the meantime, they are getting her loaded up, and they said they were going to start an IV and take her vitals before they headed over there. So my brother, I went ahead and left and went to wait at the hospital parking lot. My brother was there, and he just kind of pulled up ahead over to the side so to wait on the ambulance to leave. Well, in a few minutes, they walked up to him and told him we can't get her a certain number on her blood pressure to get above 58. So we're going to skip the local hospital and go directly to Fort Smith. That tells you that there's definitely something wrong whenever they're not even going to try to attempt with the local hospital. So we go up to the bigger hospital in the bigger city, and we are waiting in the ER for an hour. Of course, she went by ambulance, so they already had her in the back. Well, hold on just a second. That's good. Okay, so we waited in the hospital waiting room for about an hour before we were able to go and go back and see her. Apparently that during that time they were trying to get her blood sugar, trying to get all the lab work done, all of that before we went back. And they told us whenever we got back there that it was a very severe infection that had actually went septic. It was in her bloodstream. How it got like that quick, I don't know. But because I'd just seen her last week, I'd talked to her on the phone 2 or 3 times. Normally, she calls me at least 2 times a day. At the least. Most of the time, it's more than that, but that is the least amount. And I'd talked to her once that day, but not the second time she hadn't called or anything. And I didn't think anything more about it. But anyway, so they told us it was a severe infection, that she was septic, it had gotten in her bloodstream, and her blood work was really, really nasty. Now, I'm not a health professional. I don't know any of that stuff, what it's like for that. But anyway, I knew it wasn't my mom because she wasn't responding to us as far as talking to her. She was kind of dazed, not focused, nothing. So they are trying to, they give her fluids to get her blood pressure up, and it wasn't working. It was still way too low. It managed to get it up. It was double what it was whenever they first brought her in, but that's how low her blood pressure was. It was still way too low. So they tell us they're going to have to put a central line in her neck. So like an IV with 3 ports or something in her neck so that they can give her the medicine that she needs to get her blood pressure. And it's a, can't remember, it has to be in a sterile environment, so we could not be in there, and I completely understand that. I completely understand. So we had to step out. They got that put in, and then they told us that after that was done, they had to take them and do a CAT scan, and then they did something else just to make sure everything was okay because that line went into the artery. And we're like, okay. So they get that done, and then they had already told us that they were going to admit her to the hospital because she was very, very sick. And it makes me wonder if I had not went down there that night. Normally I go earlier in the day, but reasons happened that I didn't get to go down there till later that night. She was already sleeping. Would they have tried to wake her up and discovered it, or just let her sleep, or what? So I don't really know. I'm glad I went by there. I'm glad I got the nurse. I'm glad. Just a second. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm glad she's getting the help that she needs. She's been on some very, very strong antibiotics. And I spent most of the weekend there, coming home for just a few things. And yesterday, well, let's go back a little bit. She is out of ICU. She's been in her regular room for 2 days because all of her vitals and everything are looking the way that they need to be. Okay, I don't even remember where I'm at, so I'll go ahead and tell you where I think I'm at. Anyway, the last few days, it seems like her mental state has been deteriorating very, very quickly. Day before last, she was talking to where I could understand certain words. Couldn't understand everything she was saying. She was babbling. She was talking about stuff that I knew was probably part of her past. Whenever the nurse had asked her how many children she had, she said 3. There's only 2 of us. And then she said something about 7 kids. And I think that part was her and her brothers and her sister. There was 7 of them altogether. Okay, and then that was that day. And that night, they had started her on an antibiotic. She kept rubbing at her nose and her eyes, and to the point that I kept trying to stop her because she was going to poke her eye or something. Well, she ended up scratching the side of her nose doing that, but she wasn't talking. It gradually got to where she wasn't talking, she wasn't babbling, she wasn't mumbling. All we were getting was some grunts and stuff like that. So, even though they were saying that stuff is getting better, we're seeing a big improvement, that she's doing exceedingly well for what was going on. What I was seeing was her not being herself at all whatsoever. She didn't recognize my son. She didn't recognize me hardly. She wasn't focusing on me. She wasn't focusing on my brother. None of us. So, it got really hard for me to stay there. Just watching this part of her slowly decline. Anyway, so yesterday they said she was looking good other than her eating and everything and talking. So about 5 o'clock in the morning, I went ahead and went home. Fell into bed about 6 a.m. and I passed out because I was living on like 2 hours of sleep a night for the last 4 days. And I was supposed to watch Remy. Anyway, that next morning she was going to be dropped off at 10:30 or so. So I just crashed to the point that Courtney had dropped Remy off, and Joshua, my son, actually watched her from about 10:30 to 11:30 whenever I woke up. Because I was so tired, I had a major headache. I think it was from all the crying and all the stress and not being able to do everything, not being able to do anything. So, yesterday when Courtney picked up Remy and the boys once they got out of school, I went ahead and went back up there. Me and my son went up there, and I had Josh pick up Joshua once he got off work because he works up there during the week. So he rode home with him, and then I stayed probably about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and I was sitting in the room, and it just seemed, in this time they had, yesterday her blood sugar was dropping. They were trying to get her blood sugar up and everything. So in that time, her blood sugar was dropping, and they were starting to get that back up to where it needed to be. Whenever I left, she was okay. It was like 110, which is okay. But then she was just making grunting noises by this time. I couldn't get her to open her eyes. I couldn't get her to take a drink. I couldn't get anything at all. Nothing. She wasn't doing any of it. So the longer I sat there, the more I broke down. So I decided that I was just going to go ahead and go home, take a break, take a mental break from all this, sleep in my bed for a full night, which I did sleep. I didn't think that I would be able to, but I went to bed about 10:30 or so, and I fell right off asleep, and I didn't wake up till 7 o'clock this morning, which is not a normal sleep pattern for me, because normally after just a few hours I wake up and then toss and turn, and I can't sleep anyway. And then I'll go back to sleep, and same thing over and over again. But anyway, I did sleep. Woke up, my daughter Courtney dropped Remy off about 8:15 or so. She had her donuts and her drink. And then I had Joshua to watch her a little bit after that, so I could go and get some groceries, because I haven't done anything. I haven't done laundry, none of that. So I went and took my mother-in-law, and we got groceries and everything. Josh, when it was going into work tonight, whenever he accepted that, he actually thought my mom would already be out at the hospital by now. But it's okay. Anyway, so I got groceries and came back home. While I was getting groceries, my brother texted me. He's been up there during the day. I'll go up there for at least a few hours this afternoon, depending on how much I can do. But anyway, he told me that, and yesterday whenever I left, she wouldn't open her eyes at all. She wouldn't open her mouth. She wouldn't do any of that. He told me today that she's starting to open her eyes again. She's not messing with her nose. They had taken her off of the medication that they thought was causing this, and putting her on a different antibiotic, because they are very strong antibiotics. Her blood work for the infection or something, whatever number it is, it's supposed to be around 12, and it's not much above that now compared to what it was whenever she came in. I guess it was in the thousands. Anyway, it's getting back to where it needs to be. And the doctor said if it was that medicine, it could take 3 or 4 days for it to completely wear off. And between that and the infection, that could definitely be causing all of the issues with her not talking, not focusing, not answering anybody, all of that stuff. So I'm hopeful, especially whenever my brother sent me the text and saying that she was opening her eyes and that she was responding whenever you said her name. She's not so much responding to mom, but she is responding to her name. So that's a good thing. My daughter-in-law was having some issues while we were there We were there yesterday as well, but that's not my place to tell on here, so I'm not going to. Anyway, so that is where I'm standing with my mom right now. No idea when she's going to get to come home, but I do have to work this weekend. I took last weekend off. We were going to go to Greer's Ferry for my birthday here in a few weeks. My birthday is on March 1st, but I think I've decided against that, and I'm just going to go somewhere local, especially depending on how long it takes everything to get straightened back out. So we'll see how that goes. But I'll probably stay somewhere closer to home in case something else happens where we can where people can get a hold of us easier and we don't have a long drive back, but I'll still try to get away for a little bit. Anyway, I'm sorry this has been a little bit of a depressing event here. As far as the WIP and chat, not happy or anything, but I'm doing okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. Well, before I do, I want to thank all of y'all who have been sending well wishes for my mom. I really, really do appreciate that. And thank you so much, Lazy Retired Granny, for keeping everybody updated on it. I have been listening to your videos, but I'll have to listen to them over because a lot of times I was listening, but I wasn't. So I'm going to rewatch them. DP Crazy Lady, like I sent you in the email, I did get your packages. I haven't. I opened one of them, and thank you very much for that. I will be showing that here in a little while. Not today. I had a bunch of unboxings that I'd planned to do, but that didn't happen. I'll still try to do part of them, but part of the stuff I've been using while I was up at the hospital. So I will show them to you whenever I'm done, or at least some of them. We might work on a few things that I have had. I will try to do a tutorial on that planner setup that I have. And this is just my own way of doing things. It's what works for me. So I will show you what supplies I use and all that, which you can get cheap stickers. It doesn't really matter on the stickers that you get. It's just whatever decorations you want on your page. Most of my stuff is Happy Planner, but I always buy them whenever I get them on sale. And then I'll tell you a few other brands that you can get and a few other things at Hobby Lobby that work real well with it. But I will do a tutorial on that. Anyway, Thank you, DP Crazy Lady, for sending me those packages. I love them. I will show them, or I love the one. I haven't opened the other one yet. I've just been not in a good headspace lately. But I will open them soon. I will see everyone. I'll give more updates and hopefully it will be a better scenario for the next one. This is looking really, really pretty. If you don't mind, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Bye.